I'm refilming this video. I'm trying not to be such a smartass this time around. This is difficult to take, and I've been reading a lot of stuff about California and how they're pushing for getting rid of gas-powered cars, and at the same time they're asking people not to plug into the electric grid, expecting people to have the batteries, the solar panels, the charging stations, all these other things that are very expensive extras at their home to charge their electric vehicle because they don't want them to plug into the grid because they're going to have brownouts and all these controls on everything from, the time of day when you use electricity and all this stuff. When the solar panels and everything aren't taken in the sun at night is when people want to charge their electric vehicle. And now I'm reading Hawaii is closing their last coal-fired power plant as bans begin. They're going the way of, most sources of energy are evil. They believe windmills, solar panels, and rainbows are going to give them energy. They need these batteries and solar panels with all the toxic materials in them that they're bought from China, made with lots of coal-fired energy, material mined by child labor in African countries, and then they don't even have an expectation for what happens when the panels become unusable and they need to go, they're toxic and they have toxic materials in them, they need to go in a landfill. Maybe they can get China to just throw them in the sea for them so that they don't have to think about it. It doesn't have to be in a Hawaiian landfill. But this is the kind of thing that's occurring. All across the country, people are taking up green energy as it has to mean getting rid of just going cold turkey from energy sources, paying whatever the cost is, no matter how much it increases things, no matter how much it causes inflation, shortages of goods. And you have farmers being attacked everywhere for their emissions, and they've got to cull their herd, kill a bunch of their cattle and livestock down to mandated levels to cut emissions. Use less fertilizer so they get less crop production. All these things lead to food shortages, energy shortages, controlling their thermostats. And as you bring this more and more to the world, who do you think gets hurt? Do you think the wealthy that can fly on their private jet are going to cut back? They're going to lose out? Or is it going to be the little people? Because one of the things that pulls any country out of poverty is access to power. This kind of power. Electricity. And the countries of the world that are developing and are going into those industrial revolutions are using more and more energy and burning more and more coal. And these are China and India and countries like that. And what's the answer? Is it let China build 43 new coal power plants and just listen to them about all their promises, which are worded very specifically about what they're going to do to quit being polluters? The world's largest polluter, here's a sentence here. The new projects were announced in the first half of the year despite the world's largest polluter pledging to bring down its emissions to a peak before 2030. Promising to bring down its emissions to a peak, the highest point, by 2030. They've got to hurry up and peak by 2030. So they can go for carbon neutral by 2060. So in 40 years or something, when the current administration's not in there, they won't have to worry about it. Xi Jinping won't be alive probably by then. And it can be on to the next person to make their promises or break their promises. New coal plants. Cranking up energy. And not only are they cranking up energy, but they're taking in a lot more what's known as LNG to fill the gap. And liquid natural gas. Europe is hurting right now, struggling to find a replacement for Russian gas. And they want to use LNG to do it. because Russian oil, they repaired their pipeline, Nord Stream 1 or whatever it is, turned it back on with 30% of the gas coming from Russia. And what are we looking at? They're going to get it from other places now. They're going to say, oh, we want LNG from China because we don't want to be dependent on Russia. So what do they have to do? They have to stop paying this man so much for, gas through the pipeline. But he's raising the prices. They're paying that. They're getting less. And then what is he doing? He's got a pipeline to China. And he's sending ships and ships and ships to China. And China is quietly reselling the excess Russian LNG back to Europe. So what are we talking about here? We're talking about all these policies. We're talking about a European energy crisis, an American energy crisis on its way. And we've all heard about these European countries moving toward green energy, getting rid of their own power plants, shutting down nuclear plants, farmers having to cut emissions, like I said, killing their livestock down, cutting what they're growing down, cutting the fertilizer they use down. And that's why you're having all these revolts all around the world where countries are having problems. Some countries are losing everything and having major food shortages, all because farmers are to blame to meet these new requirements. Much like California, the power grid is completely fine in California. There's nothing to worry about. Just remember, set your thermostat above 81 degrees for AC and 66 degrees for heat. Remember not to plug in your electric cars. You got to go buy those solar panels, batteries, charging station for just a few tens of thousands more than your $50,000, electric vehicle. And I'm sure food shortages won't be a thing. Green energy will save us all. Just don't forget to pay your fines, EU, to the Paris Accords, buy carbon credits as you shift wealth to the green energy gurus so people like Al Gore can become billionaires. Don't worry. I think you found a solution. You can just buy from China. You can just buy some extra LNG from China. Keep shutting down all your plants. Buy some gas from China. So, don't make your own in Europe. Don't pollute less with your strict control of air quality. Let China do that. Instead, ship it all around the world. Ship it from Russia over to China, back to Europe again, so you can pay a lot more. Get those extra middlemen in there. Make sure China makes some money. Make sure Russia's still making money. Whatever price you need to pay to fight climate change, it's worth it. There will be absolutely no economic impact. No inflation, no food shortages. You're doing the right thing, Europe. Keep on it. Energy isn't important. It's not like developed countries need it to create goods and ship stuff and everything else. You don't need so much of it. Thanks for watching the video and listening to my rant. Maybe it educated you a little bit on how stupid these policies are. Heaven help us.